Swift Dating.
All right, welcome everyone. Welcome back to the Maxwell show today. I'm honored to have my great friend, Kynard. Kynard is a creator, he's a dreamer, and he is actually a children's author and illustrator. And he's doing a lot of great things. And we had a lot of opportunity to be on his show just recently. That'll be releasing on my channel and his channel soon. And so it was only right to have him come back on my show. Not back, well, come on my show and have a conversation and see what he's up to. All right, Caleb, you've heard me talk enough. So I'm interested in learning your story and learning everything about you. So thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. I appreciate your time. So let's start things off right. And who are you? And what made you start doing the things that you're doing as far as kids' books and wanting to be an illustrator, an artist, and how did it all start?
I'd like to start by saying thanks for having me. There's actually very few people who I talk to and I actually leave feeling fueled, and you are one of them. And I could tell you were going to be one of them when we first started talking. But I'll try to
live up to the expectations of this show.
But so yeah, I am a children's author and illustrator, and my story is really I was a college athlete. I was playing basketball at Division II school.
Oh wow!
During COVID, I was kind of just like forced to sit there with my thoughts, like everybody, and I realized, I'm not getting much joy from this anymore. I've always loved the game, always will, but like for some reason, this just isn't. It's almost feeling like a obsession, and I took a step back and I realized, I need to reframe, refocus, choose a different path. I've always known I had entrepreneur spirit in me, but I was always hesitant to do it. And I mean, for example, the very fact that I'm at school as an entrepreneurship major, that kind of shows you something, I would say. But so yeah, school year went by. I was struggling to figure out what to do with my life now that I'm not on the team. I would work out 4 hours a day, practice 2. And so at a certain point I was like, I've always had the idea that I could write a children's book. And I got an iPad, got an Apple Pencil. It was about probably $500 total. And one day I decided, I'm going to actually just do this. I did it. And then the process was so much easier than I expected that I just published it. And in a couple of days, it was on Amazon.
Wow. So you self-published it?
Yeah.
Wow. And so I want to dive into this because this is interesting. So you came from an athletic background. I had no idea about that.
Yeah.
Because I was checking you out on, your Twitter and your Instagram, and I didn't see usually like college athletes that they have like their curated page. It's like all about them.
Mm-hmm.
But, just looking at you and speaking to you, you didn't really give off athlete vibes.
Really?
I didn't get that. And that's kind of a leap from, doing something like that. That's so competitive and so like,
yeah. And that's actually part of it.
I guess masculine. I mean, I guess like hyperly masculine doing sports to going to kids books. Like, so how did that, like, that wasn't just random. Like this was something that was always on your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Am I right about that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So how did that start? And how did you know? Did you always want to do art, or did you always like?
That's the thing.
Let's talk about that.
For the longest, I hadn't written anything, any poetry or anything in a long time. And yeah, it was just really just being forced to be with myself and my thoughts that I realized I've always had this in me. And I actually started just writing random poems about how I was feeling about the world. And
when was this?
This was probably during about the wintertime last school year.
Last year, okay.
Yep. And I would start just writing poems about what I thought, what was going through my mind, and I would make a little illustration with them. And then after a while, I was like, it's time to make a book. And I chose my book's about planets. I chose planets because I could just use circles, and I figured it.
Yeah.
But to your question, yeah, I mean, I've been an athlete my whole life, but I've always felt like I didn't really fit in with them. Not that I don't love my teammates, everyone that at Lake Erie College, but it's always been like you said, I mean, like a college athlete is such a masculine type of thing, whereas a children's author it's a very feminine market and industry. And
Yeah.
I've actually I've always just known I had some sort of creativity in me and needed to just draw it out of me.
Wow. I'm so perplexed. I don't even know what question to ask next, because it's so different. Like, it's so, these two paths are so like different. So I'm really trying to draw the bridge here. So right now you're no longer currently playing.
No, not on the team. I go to open gyms and stuff that really frequently.
Yeah. What team was it? What sport? What?
Lake Erie College basketball team. Lake Erie College.
Like where?
Lake Erie
like
College.
Where?
Lake Erie. It's a small like Division II school in Hicksville, which is right by Cleveland.
Okay, yeah, I had no idea. You said with Division II?
Yeah, D2.
Yeah, so when you were having these days and you were starting to write down your thoughts, is this something you just started doing last year?
No, not in general. I was always told throughout my whole childhood, you could be a writer. You have a lot of writing talent. And then I did stop it at a certain point because honestly,
because I want to know where, cause like on this, like I'm with the people, I always want to know where it started from.
Mm-hmm.
And it couldn't have just came from last year.
No, not.
So
No.
I'm interested in knowing where, like, the artistic side, like where did that really start? I hate to use this word. When it really started manifesting.
Gotcha.
Within yourself.
I would say, honestly, 5th grade year of just in general. It was my first like creative writing class, and I was always told, you're not necessarily the smartest, but at least you're good at sports. At my school, it was a really rich, preppy school. I hated it, but all of a sudden I'm in my writing class and my teacher's telling me, wow, you're one of the best writers in the class. And I was like, oh, and then fast forward 7th, 8th grade, we start writing essays, and that takes away all the fun, and writing became a chore, not something that was fun. So I really just abandoned it. I would start writing my essays throughout the school year, throughout the school day, and then turn it in at the end of the day. Just anything I could do to just BS the work I would do. But yeah, it was more of rekindling it, I would say, than discovering it in general.
And then it really started coming out last year when everyone was kind of in confinement and came to themselves.
Yeah, and I really had to create a sense of calmness, honestly, within myself to be able to do it, because everything started with me making an entrepreneurship themed page on Instagram and creating content around that. And then all of a sudden I just kind of abandoned it and didn't really know why. There was no more passion in it. And along the line, I realized I want a personal brand and I want something that goes with it. And then boom, children's books, and also just any type of books that I plan on writing, and comic books too, things like that.
So children's I want to know like your audience here and what you wish to do and what you wish to accomplish with these books. I just looked at it, the Pluto's Big Adventure, and I'm looking at it and it kind of gives off the like kind of where you started writing. Mm-hmm. You said 5th grade.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the current demographics were
I would say
it's
for younger, for probably like
younger than that,
2 to 6 year olds.
2 to 6 year olds. And yeah. I want to know what the message is and what you're trying to, or if there is one, like what are you trying to, I guess, convey with the kids.
Gotcha.
As far as a message.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the message of the book, it really is that you're made perfectly and you are perfect as yourself. So everyone knows Pluto was deemed not a planet. That's pretty much what it's about. Pluto's going to the party. Everyone says, you can't come here. And then Pluto finds the universe as he's just wandering off. And the universe tells him, Pluto, you were made perfectly. Everything you are is fine. And that's really the message I want to convey, that whoever you are, whatever you want to be is totally okay, especially to kids, because when we're younger, I feel like that's when we have the most pressure. And I also think when we're younger, that's when we know ourselves the most as well. But it's like it's very tense time because we know ourselves and we know what we can bring to the people around us, the world, our families. But then the world and our families and our peers, our friends, they're all telling us we can't be what we are. And that's a very common thing, I think. And that's why I decided to make children's books, because I figured if I could help one person, one kid with this, then it's worth it.
Now, when you say be themselves, what exactly do you mean?
You know, it's an interesting topic because I feel like we never really fully know ourselves. But for me, it means just doing whatever you want to do. I mean, in this world, for some reason, we have to pick a lane and stick with it. But I think that anyone can do whatever they want and then drop whatever they're doing and then do something else. And I think that it's that simple. I mean, I think that it's just so much easier when you stop thinking about it, stop thinking about trying to appeal to others, and just let yourself be you. And it kind of isn't necessarily something that you have to think about, but something that just kind of comes. Whatever you do, you just are. And I think that's really what it's more about for me.
I'm tempted to play devil's advocate here.
Go ahead.
I'm getting tempted, but I'm trying to decide if I want to double down on this or play devil's advocate here, because I think it possibly could help. First of all, great message, and I agree to a certain extent. We definitely are pushed to, especially towards the younger generation now. They're forced to pick.
Mm-hmm.
And I think from what I'm observing in the current culture today is, I think what we're experiencing now is a rebellion against picking categories, and a rebellion against categories themselves. It's an attack on, identity and categorization of itself. And being open is the new category, and being yourself, whatever that really means, is the new category now. Like, the new category is no categories. So I'm curious to ask you, do you think that maybe, let me rephrase the question.
Okay.
Because something that I'm seeing now is that no identity is all of a sudden becoming an identity.
Yeah.
Like, I would argue that the fluidity within, especially younger kids now today, is there's a lot of voices, and there's a lot of confusion, along with people, trying to jam down a particular ideology on them, which I'm opposed to as well.
Me too.
But there's an equal, if not greater, force pushing them to just be whatever they want, and to just do whatever they want that makes them happy. And I guess my question to you is, where is the line between what you can be and what you can identify? Because what you call yourself and what you identify as isn't necessarily what you are. So, for instance, I can call myself a star athlete, and I can call myself a Division II athlete. But if my skills, if my capabilities aren't at that level, I can't impose that. And what people are doing now, especially the kids, is having your identity isn't enough. It's not valid until you acknowledge it, until Caleb acknowledges it too. Right. It's not enough until Caleb and Caleb's friends acknowledge it. So my question to you is, like, where is, not necessarily a line, but where do you draw the balance between, being free and being fluid and being open, but also, not just completely throwing away, like, values and, responsibility, and, and taking accountability over yourself and not getting in just completely in la la land. Like, where
That's-
do you
yeah.
draw? Where do you find the balance between those two things?
I think you bring up a really good point, because this is kind of the trend. It's going more towards people being able to just say, I don't want to like go too political into it or anything.
No, man, go for it. It's the Kyle Maxwell
People
show.
can
Go
say
for it.
whatever they want, and people are expected to kind of just go with that, with whatever it is. And like you said, if you're saying I'm a D2 athlete and you're really not, then the heck. But I think really the balance of the line all comes from self-awareness, because, for example, when I was training to become a D2 athlete, in my head the whole time I was saying, I will do this, not that I am. And I knew that I still took a lot of time and effort, and it took me to actually go create that for myself. So I think self-awareness really is the key, because I mean, in this world, anyone can say they're anything, but they don't have to necessarily be it. But if you're self-aware enough, then you know that even if you're saying it, then you know that if you're saying it and it's not true, then you're going against what you really feel and what you are at that moment as well. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's my counter argument.
I think that makes sense. And I think self-awareness, or to get nerdy, I mean consciousness, to be honest, 'cause that's really what we're talking about. I think that's something that's really lacking.
Absolutely.
And I also think I'll take this a step forward. I'll take this step further. I think the urge to denounce your identity from everything, to denounce that you have transcended into like this fluent being. I think that has almost that's almost transformed into a form of like a false consciousness.
Yeah.
Like you've now transcended once you denounce the fact that these objective things exist, like your height or your weight,
right,
or your physical appearance. Like you have now entered a more advanced level of thinking once you denounce these things. So I definitely understand the intent behind instilling a value in kids that would encourage them to pursue whatever they want, not whatever they want, to pursue whatever they are passionate about, despite the outside voices, because that's another big issue.
Absolutely.
And I would argue that I don't think people are being discouraged. I would argue that I don't think people are being discouraged. I think people are being too encouraged that they can do anything, like they can start a business if they want to. I'm thinking that people are being told that they are athletic when they're not. I would argue that we're being I would argue we're being coddled. But in a way, it's kind of the same thing. Because if you're being told that you can't do it, you're gonna believe that you can't. It's gonna affect your development.
Exactly.
On the flip side, if you're told that you can do everything, you're not gonna. Your relationship between you and your end goal is false. The relationship between you and your end goal is not strong enough. You don't have enough respect for it, because you underestimate what it takes to really achieve things, because you're entitled. That's how you get coddled, and you have a false representation of how the world actually is. So I'm interested. I want to know, where do you think besides kids being, I guess, discouraged, or kids being too encouraged, how I'm saying, what do you think else could kids, especially nowadays, what do you think a value is that they're not being told enough of? Besides not being themselves, or besides everything we said, what do you think the next biggest thing that you think kids aren't being told enough by adults nowadays?
That's a good question. I would say it's tough. I feel like there's so many things. And I feel like it's often parents, society, teachers, everyone. I would say.
Yeah. Do you have a kid?
Huh? No. I have a
You
little
have,
sister.
oh, okay.
She inspires a lot of
Yeah.
what I do. 2 little sisters,
Okay.
but she's young. I would say kids aren't taught enough about how to really understand their minds. And I think it's almost similar, but I think that the difference is that our minds aren't us, in my opinion. I think our minds are a part of us, but not a part that we have to identify with all the time if we want to. And I think that kids are often they develop anxiety, depression, all this stuff at young ages, and people don't really talk about that. But it's also because kids aren't really being taught things that help them stay to their truth. And I mean, I made a post about this the other day, actually. I don't understand why I'm learning geometry and how to find the missing angle of an obtuse triangle instead of learning about how to take care of myself. And I think that there's things that kids of all ages, even up through high school, college even, are lacking and need to learn. And they're actually things that are more, I would argue, are more front and center in our minds, even if we don't realize it, than geometry, algebra, all these other classes, biology.
Yeah. I would leave biology in there, but I agree with the other things that you listed. And something that I've never could understand was why. Well, I do understand, and I understand the teacher's justification for those curriculums like algebra and algebra 3 and trigonometry. I understand it. It was a class to encourage critical thinking in a mathematical way. It was to encourage critical thinking. Okay, I totally understand that. But like you said, why aren't we learning about, like, for instance, I remember back in the day where, my parents even and teachers, they used to learn how to balance checkbooks. They used to learn how to,
Like those
correct
are
me if I'm wrong, but they didn't use driving was a part of school, like how to actually drive or how to actually, I don't even think they even do taxes or even teach people how to do their taxes in school. Or, we can go on and on and on, list a bunch of things that should be taught in schools. What do you think the process is to get a more practical curriculum for children to learn actual things that can help them in the actual world? Because I do agree that, like once you take the pictures and you graduate and it's all fun and games, it's like, Pythagorean theorem is not going to save you. It's not going to get you a job. Yeah, it just doesn't, like, a lot of things just doesn't add up. So would you argue that a lot of the things that are being taught in school are kind of just like fillers, or kind of just like not a waste of time, or not just completely throw everything away and get a whole new curriculum? Because I'm not trying to inject how I personally feel about school, because I think it all just should be just destroyed. That's how I feel. I think it can't come back, but that's a whole different conversation. But I want to know your opinion. What do you think schools can do? Teachers, schools, administrators, even adults. What can they do to help kids, learn things that actually matter? And I want to be careful about my words here, because when we say actually matter, that can't be a black box of, okay, so what matters? It can't just be this the secret thing, and we're never going to get to what matters, because then we go here and it's like, oh, that doesn't matter, we should be doing this. How do we make a more practical and a more I guess that's the only word I can say, a more practical and a more useful curriculum? How can we do this, and what would that process look like? And is that something that is on your game plan of fixing?
I think you hit the nail on the head, that it's more of, for some reason, it's not about teaching people to be lifelong learners. And it's more about just filling in each requirement. And Socrates, I think, is who said this. Education is the filling of, or the kindling of a flame, not the filling of a vessel. And I think right now it all is the filling of a vessel. I don't feel like I went to school to be, I don't feel like anything was lit in me and said like, oh, I'm going to start just chasing this and get really passionate. School feels like a chore for kids. And
Yeah.
I guess to answer
Do
your
this.
question,
Get this grade.
exactly. If you don't pass, then you failed. And now you're seen as a bit outcasted. But I think that if people just woke up to the issues, and the thing is, they talk about it all the time, but talking only does so much. A Facebook post only does so much. Like, we have to actually demand change. And I think it could be everyone together: teachers, students, parents, faculty, administrators, whoever. If they all were to come together and say, this isn't right, this isn't necessarily the right way to be doing what we've been doing for so long, then just perhaps there could be some sort of change. And I guess I don't know what it would look like. I mean, we'd have to put some smarter minds than mine on how to structure the curriculum. But I just think something needs to be done about this, because it's almost ridiculous. It almost feels like the rest of America, how it's all commercialized. It almost feels like you're being trained at a young age to just continue to climb each ladder, climb each mountain, go from first grade, second grade, third grade, all the way to high school. And then you're left with nothing besides your piece of paper when you graduated.
Yeah. So I'll lay out this, and then I want to know what you think about it. So the last time I checked the actual statistics, the average unemployment rate for a college graduate, BA, associate, master, whatever the degree is, 51%.
Wow.
So I'm looking at that as college being a 50-50 shot of landing a career.
Mm-hmm.
So we have that figure on this side. In school, and from my personal experience, all school was a big moving machine to just put you through the next grade, put you through the next grade, and then the next grade, and then the next grade. And it wasn't in the ROI of school was the grade, was of just being there. And there is a handful of students who believe and who are, I guess, indoctrinated by their parents to go here and then go to the school and get this job, and maybe they have something lined up already. I have no idea. And so, I always have this conflict, because the ROI of school, about the ROI of high school, and not even just high school, elementary school, really, it shifts between elementary school, high school, and then college. The ROI of elementary school really is, I think that's where you mostly learn values, like, I guess, be kind and do this and then do that. And then by the time they get into middle school and then high school, it just all just disappears. And then now it's all just about the grade. So then now the ROI, and plus this, when you're like 11, 12, 13, your head is like going all over the place.
Yep.
And so you have that plus the entire shift of the whole demeanor is different. You have lockers now, and then like all the kids are like starting to gossip and bully you, and it's like all that stuff is happening. But then all of a sudden, values and being kind of just goes out the window, and then you're pretty much an adult now. And now the ROI is just grades. And then you get to high school, and then the ROI is even just more grades and just more grades and just more getting pushed through. And then when you get out of high school, then you get to college. Now all of a sudden you're like this not empty, but you're like this. You're like a lone voyager on like this weird, like, cut out 4-year cut out plan to study whatever you want. And now everything's on your shoulders. Now you pick your own classes. You decide when you go. You have class at 4:00 in the afternoon. Now that's never ever happened between the last 12 years of being in school. You've never had to go to a class late at night. Now you have, like, now it's like attendance really doesn't matter. You really not have to be late. You don't really have to ask to leave the classroom. Now it's like a completely different environment.
Yeah.
And now it costs $100-something thousand plus. Now it's really expensive, and the ROI is connections. Now the ROI is get here, and then it's like, it's so, I can't imagine a more unproductive model to curate adults, but to hypothetically curate potential adults that could go out into the world and make it less miserable. I can't think of a more unproductive model than that. Me personally.
I agree.
And I didn't even include all the parasitic ideologies. I didn't even include even the political aspect of that. I didn't even include where they're going. I didn't even include that. I just strictly laid it out on an analytical level. I just laid it out how it is. Maybe it was cynical the way I described it, but this is how I'm looking at it. Do you think that if we completely get rid of school and we did everything at home, what would that world look like?
I think that'd be interesting, actually. I think it would be all on the parents. So it'd be so essentially all the, I guess, potentially what could happen.
Let me rephrase that question. Do you think that model, as terrible as it is, do you think that is with all its faults, do you think that is still better than a traditional at-home school education, if you even know, or if you feel comfortable even sharing an opinion on that? But which one do you think would be better?
I've homeschooled for a semester once, and I'll be honest, in my experience of homeschooling, I was a senior in high school and I didn't do much, but for just the grand scheme of things, it would be a really interesting attempt, I think, at least. And who knows, I think that could actually have some merit in it, because obviously what we're doing now isn't working, and maybe putting kids in a more comfortable environment where they can express themselves freely through all ages and be able to still have the guidance in different forms. I think that could be better than what we have going now. And I think it's more about teaching them how to be free thinkers and teaching them how to find themselves and their passions than teaching them, like you said, the Pythagorean theorem. It's all
because, like, I hate to ramble on, but I just can't help but point this out. We don't know what we're doing it for. We don't know what we're doing. Like, for instance, you don't know what the hell when you're in third grade, you don't have a say in anything. So you just do what you're told. Once you get to fourth and fifth and sixth grade, you start your mind starts developing a little bit more, and you can start making some big boy decisions. Like, you're starting to like the whatever sex you want to like. You're starting to have hormone feelings. You're starting to develop. Your brain is starting to develop now, and the world is kind of unraveling itself. It's beginning to unravel itself, and this whole entire time is just a one big cycle, and then it kind of just puts you out. But there's no unifying narrative to tie all this together. Why am I going? Like, what is elementary school? What is middle school for?
right.
Why am I in high school? And yes, certain schools and certain institutions may have, their motto, like, oh, be kind, this, do that, and be great, be successful. But I don't think it's deep enough.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, like, to create free thinkers. Like, I don't think that the essence of who you are should be tied to the school. Like, it should be like how we talked about the other day, like the goals. The goal has to be abstracted from what we're doing. Like, the goal, the objective, like just playing basketball, the objective can't be, to win this one game. The objective can't be to just about this one game. The objective, when you guys are playing at that level, it's about being the best athlete. It's about being the winner, the hero. So when you're in high school, when you're in middle school, when you're in this, the motto can't be like, for instance, my high school was Seahawks. Like, I don't give a damn about being a good Seahawk. I don't care about that. I don't care about the school pride. Yes, those things unify us together. We have rallies, we have this, we have that. Yeah, I understand all that, but it's a facade. It's not real. There has to be this own world cannot, and it's so siloed in a way. In a way, I don't really know what I'm saying right now. But it has to be, there has to be a better unifying narrative. It has to be,
Mhm.
and Jordan Peterson, he's beginning to change my mind about this. And maybe he has a slightly different opinion because he's a professor and he's not in the United States. But he thinks the ROI of school and education period should be, to become an articulate person who can speak and write and think and go out and change the world. And I absolutely understand that.
Mhm.
But the thing is, it's, he said, like, oh, once you get out of school, the question shouldn't be what should you do, or if you do everything right, there will be so much opportunities you won't have enough to even juggle. And it's like, I just don't agree with that, because the rate of unemployment is 51%.
Mhm.
He was giving this talk at Harvard, and he only goes like he's only at these like bougie ass colleges where obviously like there's corporations that are just like they're just foaming at the mouth to get a Harvard grad or a Yale grad, like obviously those institutions or University of Toronto. But as far as the United States, it's like I don't understand what the unifying message is of education. Is it connections? Is it to be a articulate human being? Is it to get a job? Is it to have a college experience? Like, what is the point?
Exactly.
And I don't think we know what that is. And if we don't know what the point is, how do we expect to generate adults capable of doing anything from an entire system? We don't know what the point is. Like, does any of this make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, actually. And I think what we're dancing around is that we're all different, and what works for me might work differently for someone else. So someone who figures out they want to be a architect, they need geometry. But me as an author doesn't. You as a entrepreneur, you don't need that. And I guess I like what you said too about the homeschooling. I guess that could maybe even be an approach that could be more tailored to each student. And I think that's where we really need to go, is realizing that we're all so unique and we're all so different that we're not going to be able to pick just one system that's going to work for every single kid. And if you really want to get into it too, like, we could talk about how certain schools don't even give kids opportunities the same that other schools have, like in the high tax paying areas versus the low tax paying areas.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that. We can talk about that.
Like, so for example, in Toledo, Ohio, we have Perrysburg High School, known as more of a preppy area, and then we have Scott High School, which is like in the hood and things like that. So those two kids, they go to each school, they have very different opportunities, and it's all based on where they live. And that alone isn't fair either. And I just think there has to be something different than what we're doing now that will get the job done better than what we're doing. And like I said, the ROI, who knows?
And I would argue that obviously this isn't something that a lot of parents can do, but I would argue that is one of the that's one of the what's what I'm looking for. That's one of the pros from sending your kid to a privately funded school versus a publicly funded school. Because if you go to a public school, you guys are not in charge of anything. Like, you can't go to the parents have no leverage.
Right.
The parents can't show up to the board and be like, oh, you better teach my kid this or else. Like, or else what? You're just one kid.
Exactly.
That's the public aspect of it. The private aspect of it is, when these kids or when these parents or the places that are not funded, the public schools are funded by the local taxpayers. The privately school, they're funded by any other institution that they want. They have control over those private schools. So their kids and their parents, they're sending their kids, $70 grand a year. They can show up to a school and be like, yo, you don't teach my kid this, I'm taking my money and going somewhere else. They have skin in the game.
I saw a lot of it.
And that's it's unfair, broadly speaking. It's unfair that a parent that has no choice, that works 1,000 hours a week and has to send their kid off to a public school because they can't afford anything else. That's unfair in that aspect. But also, we can't also exclude the fact that the people that do have like for instance, like you said you were in a preppy school.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all over the board, and there probably is a disproportionate group of people that do have access to a better place of going. But I think it's actually more about, it's not more about, but I think the leverage is a big part of this too, because if you're a kid, if you're a parent and you're sending your kid to school and you're actually paying for it, like an actual like a damn near a tuition, you have skin in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Versus to a parent that they're going to like they're going to like tortilla chip high school, and the teachers are like half alive, and like and the lights don't work, and it's just a complete mess. Like there's so many different factors, and you're right. There really isn't going to be like a one. So you see my point? Why my initial point was that this needs to be just completely just burnt down, because I don't see it.
Started over.
I honestly don't see it. Yeah, start over from the beginning. Like when Aristotle back in the beginning, back in like -1000 BC, like he used to have classes where like he would like this is where schooling even began. It began in Greek. He would have one class, and these people were called something, but they only could ask questions. And he would have another class, and they only could answer. And I think that's just so. I think adding dynamics like that, like setting up a particular group that can only ask questions,
mm-hmm.
and setting up another group of people that could only speak, and they couldn't ask any questions. They could only speak, and then having those two type of, I think. Do you think maybe we should go back towards do you think we're straying too far from the roots of education, philosophy, education, how it originally started was more about, less about, because we have to understand there was less to learn about back in ancient Greek, and there wasn't really much to learn about. But do you think we've strayed too far from what education like initially started as, or what was supposed to be? Do you think that maybe we should go back to more like how you said, like more like a personal development group? Let's say if you had the opportunity to just completely just burn it all down and just restart, how would Caleb's system, how would that look?
That's a good question. I would say whatever it has to be tailored to each student, like to a T. And I like what you said about how the roots of it all, and I actually didn't know that until now. And I think that that's better than what we're doing now, because at least they're teaching that there's more questions than answers. I think that a lot of it now is implementing that we know a lot of stuff, we know all this, but at the end of the day, we don't know anything. And I think that if that's the core of it, then maybe we can make strides in the right direction, as opposed to teaching almost what I would argue is fueling egos, honestly. And I don't know what I would do completely, to be honest. I just think I like what you're saying, in line with more questions. And I don't know. I mean, I think whatever we do, there needs to be less pressure each day on the kids. Kids need to be able to focus more on learning freely and in a fun way than if they miss their homework assignment, they can't go to recess. Or if they, you know what I'm saying? Like my 6-year-old sister, that could happen to her. She's 6 years old. She should be able to play outside for her 30 minutes a day. Honestly, I don't know what we should do. I just think more questions than answers has to be at the core of it, as opposed to what we're doing now.
Yeah, I agree. Let's switch gears here. So I want to know when you started this entrepreneurship route. Was this something that have you always wanted to have a, because you do have a product,
Mhm.
and you do have something that you're providing. So is this the first time you've actually had a physical or maybe a digital, are there digital copies? Are there physical
Yeah, it's
copies
both,
of,
both ebook and
yeah,
print.
is this the first time you've had a physical product, or have you, I don't know, in your life or were you like the lemonade stand kid? Were you like the
Knocking
newspaper
on
guy? Like,
doors.
or when did it start?
So when I was younger, actually, I wasn't very entrepreneurial. Besides doing things like watching Shark Tank and just constantly being like thinking of my own ideas. I was more of thinking just constantly inflow of ideas, and I still to this day that's like how my mind works. And yeah, but now is really the first time I've had a physical product. But the only other time I would say I could argue was an entrepreneurial thing was last summer when I was working on the entrepreneurship themed page, because I was kind of trying to become more of like an influencer type of deal. But
Yeah.
yeah, I wasn't really like a knock on your door, I'm gonna sell you something, or let me cut your grass type of kid. I consider myself honestly a lazy dreamer, but almost like in a funny way. Like I know what I have to do, but people call me lazy all the time. And yeah, this is the first time I've had a product, and I always imagined it being different. It's more of a creative route. It's more of a personal brand. I always expected more to be more of like a hard-nosed CEO that does things, gets things done, goes from 0 to a billion as fast as possible.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I've always wanted to keep the core of treating people right, as in my employees and the customers, everyone around me, and using business as a vessel to do good. That's always been what I feel I can do with it.
So do you eventually want to start with, just kids books, and then maybe eventually turn into a kids book like publisher where you're helping other people publish? Like what is the map? What is like if you have one, the 5-year, 10-year map, like what is this?
Like the
You know
end
what I
goal?
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, like what is it? Like what is it?
To be
And where do
honest,
you see yourself after doing books?
to be honest, I've always thought that I'm someone that can just do whatever I feel like at any moment. And I've always felt that,
Yeah.
like I said earlier, that's what people kind of lack. And so I also was looking into making an app last year. I wanted to make like
Oh wow.
this industry app, and I was trying to learn how to code, and it was a whole process that I really wasn't ready for. But
Yeah.
I think I'm versatile as an entrepreneur. I think that I can, as long as I know an industry, for example, fitness, sports, things like that, I can always think of ideas that will make an experience better for somebody. And I feel like I could own a gym one day. I will probably have an app one day. But to be honest, right now, I guess my plan is to use the books as a way to fund things my big ideas that I can make next. Because what I realized was I have all these awesome ideas that I love, and I write them down and everything, but there's really not a way to do them yet. And it's more about, to be honest,
Yeah.
for me, it's more about
We're in
scaling
the same boat.
what I can do now. And what I can do now is I can get an iPad and I can publish books for free on Amazon. And I have no doubt that I'll be able to create an audience that will in turn fund the things that I want to do in the future, which will be, honestly, I like the idea of making a social media app. That's probably my end goal.
Yeah, you're gonna have a hell of a time.
Oh yeah,
Literally, literally doing that.
meeting with Facebook and TikTok, all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I wish you luck. And that's funny. You said some interesting things when you said you consider yourself, or you were considered a lazy kid.
Mhm.
That's actually funny because with creativity, I took a personality test, and creativity and entrepreneurship, creativity, thought and outgoingness, extroversion was tightly associated with lack of conscientiousness.
Mm.
So the entrepreneurial mind and the entrepreneurial spirit is actually paired with not laziness, but it comes at the expense of hard work and conscientiousness and focus and labor.
Yeah.
And also makes sense because, the entrepreneurial mind, what differs between a business owner that will spend like 10 years doing one thing, which I can never understand how people do that, and versus like the more entrepreneurial mind is we don't care what the vessel is. We just want to get to where we're going. Like, it doesn't matter if it's a boat, it doesn't matter if it's like a what's that little red thing called? A buoy, or whatever the hell it's called. It doesn't matter if it's like a canoe, a fucking paper boat. It doesn't matter what the hell it is. It just has to be a useful enough vessel just to go along with the program. But and the difference is, it's like with a business owner and with people who are more industrious and people who are more hardworking is we need those people to do the ideas. Like that's what the entrepreneur is. We have the idea, the person kind of at the top, and you make this big like blueprint, and you're like, wow, I just made this fantastic blueprint. Now I just need to actually do it. Right. And you're not the guy to do it.
Exactly.
And that's how it's always funny because what I think now is what's happening. This would be an interesting conversation. Is the people who are industrious and conscientious and hardworking, they are kind of like the number two person, the COO, or like the CFO, managerial people. Yeah, the managerial people, they're not entrepreneurial, so they have to work next to someone who is entrepreneurial so that they can, I guess, satisfy their entrepreneurial itch. Because like like a manager, if you ever like worked anywhere, the manager will refer to things as this is my place, or I ran that place, or they'll kind of take like a false ownership of what they're doing because they're outsourcing their entrepreneurial drive from what someone else made. And I'm kind of getting off topic here, but what do you think the current state of entrepreneurship is? Because I'm seeing it as like this fetish lifestyle where it's about sunglasses and having big cars and having a bunch of expensive things and doing a whole bunch of just nonsense. And about it's like a lifestyle. Like I follow this person, and every time I look at this story, they're like showing like them at the top of like some building, and they're like, waking up at this is the life of an entrepreneur, da da da. I'm like, I'm watching a movie. Like, right? If you were really busy, would you have time to be doing all this? And I'm just having so many thoughts, so many thoughts in my head. Like, you should be doing something right now. Why are you putting more effort and showing me what you're doing than actually doing something? Exactly. And I hate to say real fake entrepreneur, but the people who are my friends, like who actually have multiple things going on, it's like I shouldn't be able to look at your page and say, oh yeah, he does that. Because that's not, if I can look at your page and say, yeah, he does that, I don't think that that is really indicative of what an entrepreneur is, because you shouldn't know. And like your explanation, I was like, okay, so this guy is just doing everything. Like, you shouldn't know. And I think that's more what it should be. Like you said, I could do this, or I could fucking do an app, or I could do a book, or I could do all these other things. What do you think is with these entrepreneurs nowadays who are making this like a lifestyle sort of thing? Why are they doing this? And what are they missing? Like, what are they not understanding about what I think, true entrepreneurship is? Like, just doing a bunch of random, like, it's just having like a gun and just shooting at a bunch of random targets until you hit one. Like, what are they not understanding about this? Why are they turning it into something that is not?
You see, I think a lot of it has to do with social media, but people like to blame that for everything. But it's really more about each individual. The aesthetic of it all is people life. It's like you said, it's a lifestyle. You're traveling a lot. People on their stories in the planes, or they're on the beach, or you're the CEO and you work for 5 hours a day or 5 minutes a day, whatever people that dream they're painting. And what they're missing is, I think, honestly just being an authentic person in that area, because it's almost as if they sold their souls to that idea that they see from other people. I think. I think that it's more about, as people like you and I, we talk about things. It's more about bringing value to people and creating things like you said, just shooting each target. And if you hit one, you hit one. Good. It's more about that for us, like just doing the ideas that come to us. For these people, it's more about, I'm going to try to take someone's idea, or I'm going to do whatever it is that is going to make me money, and I'll be able to flex on all my peers. And they're missing just the being genuine and being,
I said the passion.
Yeah, exactly. They're missing the passion of what the process really is. They don't care about the being in the trenches and only having sold 5 books. They care about selling 1 million ebooks. That's one of the biggest things, is the ebooks. People have like their most ridiculous whatever they are, but
damn ebooks, man.
I swear. But it's really, like you said, it's the passion. There's no passion. It's
how to sell ebooks.
Exactly. They make a whole ebook on how to sell ebooks. A whole ebook, a 30-page ebook on social media mastery. Like, what is that?
Jesus Christ.
No one really knows how to do it the right way, in my opinion. But I think, like, you hit the nail on the head. It's the passion. Entrepreneurs are creative people.
Yeah, because like because think about it, like you and some people will say, well, money makes the world go around, and some people will argue that you have to have a hello. Are we there?
Yep, you're back.
Okay. Some people argue, a passion doesn't put food on the table, and that makes perfect sense. Like, yeah, you're right.
Exactly.
But the thing is, like, you didn't drop out of, because you had a think about this. I'm always looking at people's actions and why they do things. You had a clear cut identity already aligned for you. How tall are you?
I'm about 6 foot on a good day.
Okay. Yeah. So you have a fluctuating height. That's another unique factor about you. So you're about 6 foot. You're a 6 foot tall guy. You're athletic, college athlete. I don't know how or what your path could have been, but you had a pretty damn good identity there that could have possibly led to a gajillion times more money than what you're probably doing right now. And why would you do that if money was the be all end all goal? Like, I'm always looking at people's actions. You switched because you said in your head, I could do this. I could be this star athlete. I could, sign this brand endorsement. And now you're probably really pissed because this new NIL thing just came out, because now they're actually starting to profit off the name, images, and likeness. But anyway, you said you left that on the table, and you chose I call it passion over profit. You chose the passion over the profit. And I think that's what entrepreneurs are lacking now. They're choosing the profit over the passion, which is currently transforming into this like weird, like, let me use this word again. It's like the fetishization of entrepreneurship. It's like a fake version of it. They're selling you what, I don't even know what, I struggle with naming it. I struggle saying what it is because I don't know what it is. It's like a lifestyle. That's what it is, because it's a lack of passion. Because I kid you not, I love making content and stuff, but I really just like doing my ideas. Like, I don't need Instagram for me to exist. I don't need these things to exist. I question how many entrepreneurs would disappear off the planet Earth and their businesses along with them if these platforms that they've invested their entire lives in suddenly just disappear. Like, would they still have a brand outside of these things? Would people still know them? Would they still have an impact? I'm starting to ask myself this, like, Jesus Christ, but I have still have an impact. Like, do you think people understand that there's something outside of these 4 apps that we use?
And I think that's a lot of it. Really, I think you're right. people think that those 4 apps are their brand, but their brand is so much more than that. It's what they're selling. It's what they are. It's who they are. It's their whole company. And I really think even people will disappear if Instagram and all these apps are deleted. And how many of them are even just on there and that is all they are, is a coach or whatever, and they don't actually do anything, but they are just labeled that online to appeal to others. Like I bet you there's a good percentage. And
98%.
Exactly.
being generous.
Mm-hmm. I think entrepreneurs are people that understand that we are all creators in our own way, and they understand, they get that itch almost, like they have to create something that whatever idea comes and just sticks with them, they have to create it. I think that entrepreneurs are people that understand that if they're not creating their dream, they're creating someone else's, and they choose their dream. And it's okay to choose someone else's, but entrepreneurs are people that want to create for themselves, others, and understand that it's not about creating money, it's about creating impact, creating an experience, whatever it is for each of us. And that's really the difference, I think.
Yeah. It's definitely lacking that second part, the creating opportunities for other people. Because right now, like something that I've told clients in the past or people that I've worked with, working on like their brand image or their awareness or how they wanted to structure their business versus them, if they wanted to be a part of it. Like I always use, I can't think of another person better, Steve Jobs, Apple. Did you want to be kind of like the leader of it, like you're the CEO and you're kind of like the personal brand attached to it? You want to be something like that, or do you kind of want to be like Berkshire Hathaway and Warren Buffett, like just be behind it, just don't come out and don't give a speech, don't say anything, or don't do anything? And I think now everyone is so stressed to be like that Steve Jobs. Not that people are like idealizing him personally, but people are so infatuated with being I guess like a persona of a successful person rather than being a successful person.
Right.
Like I think Kanye West said that. I think Kanye West said people are, what did he say? People want to look rich more than they want to be rich. Like, what do you think besides social media? Like, let's get deeper than this.
Okay.
What do you think? And this can even stem from, child development. Like, what do you think is causing people to just not be true with, like, let's just get real broad. Let's just get real deep. What do you think is causing people to just not be 100% with themselves?
Honestly, I think it's society. I think it's the influence from society in many ways. So I thought there was a spider up there. It's society in many ways. I think parents.
We're having a good conversation. He's tuned in.
I swear.
Even the arachnids are tuning in. And they sit.
That saying, like the fly on the wall. But
yeah.
I think a lot of it is society, which stems from parents, siblings, friends, and I think the pressure from society that I say this a lot, that money is power, and for some reason we're in a power-driven ecosystem right now, and I think that for whatever reason, people aren't allowed to honestly just be human, which is taking things a step at a time. So because of that, there's a huge fixation with the end goal. And the end goal, which is, like you said, people looking at people like Steve Jobs, Bill Gates.
That's a good metaphor.
I mean, even Gary.
Some people will take 20 or 30 minutes to get the right angle for their picture on the wall. So that was a good metaphor you did.
I appreciate it. But people focusing on all these big entrepreneurs and not realizing it took them 20, 30, however long years to do this. And they think that because they make an Instagram and post once a day a picture of them on a beach, that they're there. Whereas, and it's all about just making society think that is who they are. And that is, because everything we do online or anywhere, that's our personal brand, really. And they think that by doing that, they can just seem so much more successful. And success, what I had to realize is success is, it's, what's the word? It's unique to all of us, and it's subjective. That's what I was thinking. Success is subjective, and it's less about creating over $1 million for yourself. It's and being miserable along the way. It's more about creating whatever you want and creating the life you want, and on your own terms. And that's what's lacking. Society has taught people that money is power, and we're all climbing our ladders in our heads, really, every day. We're climbing whatever mountain, which is a very ego-driven thing. But that's just the narrative and the life that we're in. But it's not necessarily all bad, but it's just, that's what I'm seeing a lot of these days.
And what do you think is our way out of this? No, not necessarily our way out, but how could we start to fix this?
I think,
where does it start?
I think it's all about each individual consciousness. I think what I'm really describing, not to sound crazy, but I mean, people talk about this all the time, the Matrix. I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but there is some, it's not necessarily like you're going to wake up and be unplugged, but there's ways we're told to think. And I think that it's really all about being able to be aware enough to understand that voice in my head that's saying I shouldn't go after my goal the right way, that's not me. That's my parents telling me I need X amount of dollars. Or the voice in my head telling me I can't follow whatever passion, that's not me. That's my teacher telling me that I need to buckle down and get a job. And oftentimes these are thoughts that we don't even have until someone says it to us. And I think that it's really all about being self-aware enough to understand that whatever you choose is what you're going to create for yourself. And with that, just act accordingly, pretty much.
I agree with that 100%. There's a lot of things that play in, my mind that I didn't put there.
Mm-hmm.
And we all have those thoughts every single day. And how one becomes more self-aware, the world may never know. The world may never know, man. I think once we figure out that, I think there would be no point.
Facts.
If we could like, this probably already exists, but if there was some hunk of machinery that could artificially make people smarter or make people, I guess, more self-aware, increase their IQ, we just completely commoditize intelligence and wisdom, there would be absolutely no point.
I agree. I think a lot of what we do is learn, and in unique ways. It's less of, like we said, going back to school just a little bit, not to be like a dead horse or anything, but learning is about experience. It's not about being told things. And
remembering.
Yeah, exactly. It's you remember from experiences, I would say, and from having fun. But like you said, I think a lot of why we're here is to learn about ourselves and others and just life. Not to, I mean, I know I'm kind of just rambling now, but that's just my 2 cents.
You've been talking to me too much.
Hey, I love that influence.
Yeah, man. So I think we have to. I have some things I have to get on a call in 10 minutes. I'm actually talking with Joey in 10 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's crazy. I've been so busy. I've been unintentionally putting him aside for a while, so I want to relate to that. But holy crap, are we still here?
Yep, you're back. You're good.
Yeah, 20%. Yeah, so I don't want to piss him off. Man, Caleb, it was great. I'm having a good conversation, man. We've talked 3 times so far.
I know.
It's great.
Thank you for
great
having
conversation. Me. I'm hoping that I'm wishing you much luck with your books, and you're probably one of the most open and unpredictable people I've probably ever spoken to.
Thank you.
I have no like after this interview, I have no idea where to put you at, and that's really good.
Thank you.
That's good because if I hate because if I could know exactly who you are, what you're going to say, where you're going to go, and within 45 minutes, I automatically put you in this
Like
box.
categories, yeah.
And not there's anything wrong with categories, but it just kind of takes away the fun. So I think we need more people like you and I who are just
we're questioners, we're thinkers, we think about
it.
And I think
Yeah,
we
man.
respect.
Yeah, I may have just cursed the world, suggesting that there should be more people like me. Was that a very?
I don't think so.
Was that a very arrogant statement to make?
No,
Not me
I agree.
personally, but I guess more people that just think freely, that more people that just leave you questioning, leave you wondering. Because I'm still wondering, what the hell is this guy about? What is he doing? Like, why is he doing this? And I think those questions should be left open intentionally. But we got to go. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I wish you a lot of luck.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
It's always great to talk to you.
Swift